Welcome, everyone, to another episode of the Art of Slowing Down podcast. It's your host here, Annalena, and I'm very delighted to be here for a solo episode today. So I felt called to talk a little bit more about this whole topic of cosmic or true sidereal human design, and especially the question that you may ask yourself. So let's say that you have been into human design for many years, or maybe recently, and all you know is the regular human design, which is based on tropical astrology. And then you come across my channel or my podcast and you hear about true sidereal human design, or also called cosmic human design. And then you're going to check it out and you feel like, oh my gosh, I don't resonate with this at all. Or maybe you feel like all confused. You don't even know what's going on. So I want to talk a little bit about this. So first, I want to start with, okay, what is even human design? What is it for? So human design for me is a tool that we have access to that combines a lot of different modalities, ancient wisdom, and it's here for us to get to know ourselves at a deeper level. It's here for us to come back home to who we really are, because I think so many of us have fallen into a place where we're trying to imitate other people, or we think we have to be like something outside of ourselves, or something that we think that maybe our parents want of us, or what's expected by us from society, all these kind of things, right? And also human design is actually called an experiment. So anything that you learn about human design, it's here for you to experiment with that, right? It's here for you to try it out and see if it fits, how it feels, and if any time diving into your human design leads to you conforming into something that doesn't feel right to you, right? Well, for example, you learn something about your human design and then you feel like, oh, because I'm this type, I cannot do something. But even though intuitively you feel that's the right thing to do, then I would say like, well, maybe human design is not really serving you. But on the flip side, if human design helps you to give yourself permission to trust yourself, if it helps you to finally do the thing that you have been meaning to do for a while, but you have been holding back, you have been procrastinating, you have been questioning yourself. And then once you learned about your human design, you are like, oh, wow, yeah, these are my unique gifts and talents. Let me go do that. Then absolutely, it's a beautiful thing. And what I have learned on my own journey, I have kind of experienced both sides of the spectrum. And I think that's also important, or part of this experiment, because when we experience those extremes, we can also discern what is actually serving us and what is not serving us. So when I first got into human design, the tropical human design, I found out that I'm a 2-4 manifesting generator. And oh my gosh, there was a couple of things that gave me so much peace. One was the 2-4 profile, because I always felt like I'm too shy, I'm too introvert. And when I learned that this is actually something that is normal for me, that I need a more alone time and I'm more introverted as a person, but then I also love to connect with people, because I always thought that, well, it can be only either one, right? I can either be introvert or I love to be with people. But I learned with the 2-4 profile, no, I get to be both, and when I honor both parts of me, that's when I get to be most successful. So for me, there was this like permission slip, to dance between those two worlds, where I was more hiding and doing my thing and not in the forefront all the time. But then I also really loved to receive the nourishment from connecting with people. So it was like my happy dance there. And then also learning that I'm a manifesting generator, one of the biggest things for me was, again, this permission slip that, oh my gosh, I'm multi-passionate. When I was growing up in school, I always remember I called myself like, I'm a jack of all trades. I know all these things. And I loved always variety. I loved, focusing on one thing for some days, and then I got bored of it, and then I would do something else, but I would come back to it eventually, And it was human design and learning about the type of the manifesting generator where I could finally relax into my body and stop questioning myself. Because so often when we are in the self-development world, on the coaching space, we meet people usually that tell us at some point, well, you have to do it a certain way. You just have to pick one thing and you have to stick with it. And for some people that may work, right? But for me, that never felt true. And this is why, for me, human design at the time was just such a huge, huge blessing in my life. And then as I studied human design deeper and deeper, and I had all these readings with people, I started to notice that, well, there were people that were not manifesting generators. They also came to me and were like, well, but I also feel really multi-passionate. And the more I learned about the gates and the channels in the human design chart, I understood that it's not just the manifesting generator that can be, quote unquote, multi-passionate. What I did learn is that the manifesting generator is the type of people that tend to need this variety and passionatism, if you want to call it this way, the most, or it's almost the people that are here to show this to the world, that it's okay to be versatile and bring all your different gifts and talents together and create your own magic sauce in some way. And there are specific gates in the chart. So for example, there's gate 34, there's gate 16, which is all about versatility. Gate 34 is all about really being busy and responding to things with a lot of power, being physically active. And there's also gate 53. Gate 53 is about starting things. And so again, there's also gate 35, which is about change. It's about trying out different things and embarking yourself into adventures. So I learned over time that you can be any type and you can be multi-passionate. While I learned this through the manifesting generator type or archetype, again, it can apply to all of us. And then I started to explore it further, right? I looked deeper at these types. There was also oftentimes that people came to me, well, I really resonate with my human design, but I really resonate also with a projector. And again, if you study human design at a much deeper level, you start to also learn that most of the energies in the human design chart, and when I say that, I mean the gates and the channels that we have in a chart. So there's 64 gates and there's 36 channels in a human design chart. And most of these are projected energies. And this basically means that it behaves just like what we learn about the projector, where you get invited by life or by other people or communities into new opportunities, as opposed to, you're trying yourself to push and force and, tell people what to do, or you kind of force yourself into things and you probably realize that really never works. And when you can just relax, and you focus on yourself and you actually see your unique gifts and talents without needing them to be seen by others, at some point it just magically happens and you get called out. And then it happens in a very beautiful and effortless way that you get to share your gifts with the world. And then I also realized, okay, wow, this is very similar also to the 2-4 profile, because it's this dynamic of withdrawing and doing a thing and then getting called out by the people, and you connect with the community. That's why I also always shared a lot that, yeah, I'm a manifesting generator in tropical human design, but I also feel a lot like a projector because of my 2-4 profile, also because of my incarnation cross, And anyways, I'm sharing all of this because I found over time that I can connect to some level to all of those 5 types. Because all these 5 types that describe in some way to me what it means to be a human. And yeah, you may resonate with one of the types more than another. And if you also think about now other personality tools, and let's say human design is also like a personality type test or tool in some way, right? So we have also money archetypes, for example. We have the Enneagram and the Myers-Briggs. There's so many different things out there. And with all of these, you will also see that, yeah, while you may score in the highest to be one of the types or one of the categories, just like 5% below, you may already be also this type and then this type. So at the end of the day, you're like a mix of all of it, right? And then also think about if we in human design have 5 types, and we are how many billions of humans, it's just that in itself we can do, right? Yeah, there's a tendency where we may fall into, but to really say like, oh, all the generators should be doing this thing, all the projectors should be doing this thing, I think that is just very wrong. It's very much about categorization and really not looking at the individual. And I mean, human design is called the science of differentiation. We are all so incredibly unique and different. And even if you and I, in our human design, and I'm still right now talking about the traditional tropical human design, before in a little bit, I talk more about the cosmic or true sidereal human design, you know, we can have the same profile and the same type. We can even have the same birthday, and we can be still so different because we may have a different past, we have had different experiences, we made different choices. If you believe in past lives, we probably have different karma, we went through different kind of things. And we are so incredibly unique. And for some reason, when human design came into my life, I saw this picture where we are all these individual beings. And I think it was Karen Parker, she always talked about it's like a big puzzle piece, and it really clicked for me because I was like, okay, if everyone is just one of the pieces in the puzzle, every piece has to be different because not one of the pieces can be the same in a puzzle, at least the puzzle that I'm thinking of. And yeah, we may have some similarities with a type that we may relate to and all these things. And also, then the more I study human design, I also saw that, you could be a 5-1 generator, I could be a 5-1 generator, and our charts could be, oh my gosh, so different. We could have totally different centers defined, totally different gates defined. You could have single definition, another person could have a quadruple split, incredibly different. This is why I feel that we have to be very careful how we approach the types, and especially also when we talk to each other, how we see each other, right? Because if we just see a person from some of the information you may have heard about the type, again, we have to be really careful. And I want to go back to what I said in the beginning. This is an experiment. Experiment with this and see what fits, but don't tell other people, oh, because you're this, you should be doing this, or you should not be doing this, right? This is really the one thing that human design, in my opinion, is not for at all, to tell people what they should or should not be doing. It's a beautiful tool for people to try it out, to play with it, to experiment with it, and then see, oh, this really works for me. This really helps me. This really helps me trust myself. This validates something about myself that I didn't see before. And it gives me the courage to finally do the thing that I was questioning myself for such a long time, right? So the other thing that I also learned, the more I studied human design, and especially I found resources and materials from people that actually worked with Ra at the time, Ra Uru Hu, the person that downloaded the human design system and so gracefully shared it with the world, which I'm also so deeply thankful for it. So apparently in the very beginning, there were no 5 types. We just had these individual human design charts. But then at some point, they decided to create the types. And there are people that have worked with them at the time, and they felt this was maybe not the right thing to do, or was more about the commercial side. And I'm not here right now to judge this in any way or form, but I just found it very interesting for me to observe, oh, okay, maybe how the human design started was beautiful, but maybe then it went a little bit into the wrong direction and was maybe used in some ways that were also not helpful. Now, I still think that if you see the types with a very open mind and can see that there's lots of overlaps, and that let's say, oh, I feel like 35% like a manager, and then I feel like 40% like a projector, and some part of me feels like a reflector, right? That, yeah, you get to be a blend of all of this in some way. And I think one of the reasons why it's sometimes hard for people is because we have this strategy and authority, like how we're supposed to make decisions. And, for the generator types and the managens, is this way to respond, and for the projectors, wait for an invitation. And then for the reflector, we have like wait 29 days for the lunar cycle, and for the manifestor, we have basically wait for the divine inspiration to come through you, and then you go take action, right? Now, again, the more I have really studied this and went into the depth of this, is that I also have realized that all these strategies, how they're described, they still have a lot of similarities. All of them have one thing in common for me, which is slowing down and waiting. Even as a manifester, you got to wait for this inspiration to come through. So in a way, there's also responding for me, And I think all humans respond to the environment, if that's people or nature or something, right? And the wait for invitation for the projectors and the way to respond for generator types is also, again, it's very similar in some way, because the wait for invitation is actually only for really big things in life, major, like a job situation that changes and stuff like that. And then again, if you have a generator, they have a lot of projected energies in their chart. It may actually work out the exact same way for them for like a big life transition where and it's always also like they get invited by life. But everything is about a more feminine approach. And that's really where I see the beauty in human design, that it gives us all this permission slip to shift the gear from, trying to push and force things and try to make things happen based on how we think it has to be, and actually go more into the body, wait, and see what life gives us. What are the nudges? What are the little breadcrumbs that life puts in front of us? And this can be people, this can be situations, anything you can think of. And then our body responds. And I think that is really the same for all of us, that human design is actually teaching us to get out of the head. Like the mind is not here to make decisions. That's the one big message of human design. And then we tune into our body, like what actually feels right in your body. If that's your sacral response, if that's your splenic authority, it's always a feeling and a sensation in the body, right? And there's so many other things also with human design. Also, if we talk about emotions, or you may have heard some people have emotional authority, and that we should wait to make big decisions when we have emotional authority. Now, I have learned over time through my own experiment, because I have an undefined solar plexus, actually in both my true sidereal and my tropical human design chart, that because I can also feel emotions, I can actually amplify them and feel them a little bit stronger sometimes. I'm also not designed to make big decisions just on the fly, because sometimes I feel so much and I may even need a little bit more time with that, So this is, again, the beauty with human design, that when you have this awareness that this is here for you to experiment, you get to discern. Don't just take those things and be like, oh, this is how it has to be. And if you're not following it, you're doing something wrong, right? Anything that comes into your life, I always want you to question it. I always want you to, again, try it out, test it out, see how it works for you. And again, the beauty is that through the solar plexus in human design, the center, I have learned so beautifully how emotions work, right? How they impact us, how they influence us, and why it is actually quite detrimental for us when we just make big decisions, especially when it comes to spending money or anything where you commit a lot of time and energy into something, that it's always wiser for all of us to slow down, to really feel it out. And when we're back in like a neutral space, if it really still feels right in our body, and then we get to do that. And I only learned this through the beautiful wisdom of the emotional authority in human design, because the undefined centers, anything that is white in your chart, is reflecting that now back. And through the defined and undefined together, this is, I feel like, how we can actually only learn about these energies in essence. So another thing is these profile lines, right? Like I said, I'm a 2-4 profile in tropical human design, and it found such a great resonance with us. But to be honest, I can relate to all of the 6 lines. I can relate to some other profiles, some more, some less, obviously. And the 2-4 is definitely one of the ones I relate the most with. There was another one, the 5 one. I was like, wow, I relate to this a lot as well. But again, then we tell ourselves, well, it can't be, I have to be only this way, right? But if you have studied with me also before, taken some of my courses, you know, if you look at your human design chart and you look at all the gates that you have in the chart, and every gate has a line, the second number, there's always like the gate and then a dot and then there's a number. And you may be a 2-4 profile, for example, but you may have a lot of 5 lines in some of the other planets. And then you may also obviously relate a lot to this as well, you know? And then also when I studied the gene keys deeper, so the gene keys is something that for me was kind of born out of human design because it also has these 64 gates, and they're now called the 64 gene keys, which is this beautiful wisdom which originates back to the Chinese I Ching, the 64 hexagrams. And here it was also Richard Rudd kept saying over and over again, like, well, yeah, you may have your gene keys profile, but at the end of the day, all of the 64 gene keys apply to all of us. And I started to think like, oh, wow, this is really interesting because I already felt this with human design. Like, yeah, I may have these gates defined or maybe this type, but I still resonate with the other one as well. And now here in the gene keys, it's actually being said, now you have all of the 64 gene keys. And Karen Parker also always emphasized that you have all of the chart. And when you hear this right now, you may be like, yeah, well, what does it mean? But why does it even matter then what type I have, or I'm confused? So what it means that you have all of the chart is like all these 64 gates, all these 36 channels, they apply to us. Now, what you have defined in your chart, what is colored in, this is something that you tend to radiate out into the world, kind of something that comes more easy to you, or it's innately there. We sometimes may hold it back because we feel like we're too much. It really depends also on our conditioning there. And then anything that is white and undefined in your chart, it's not like you don't have it. This is the energies you can take on through other people and your environment, and then you actually get to taste it from different places, different people, and over time learn this energy. It's in a more feminine, more receptive way how we learn this energy, right? So that's really the only difference there. And then also we have transit. So all of us get to feel certain gates over the course of the year. So the sun, for example, moves through all 64 gates every year, and so does the earth. And the moon moves through all 64 gates every 29 days, right? And it does it again and again and again. So we get to taste it all. And at some point, we are familiar with all of these energies, you know, and then maybe we don't even need any of human design anymore, could be, right? So there is so much overlap. And maybe this also helps you a little bit to see it a little bit more open-minded and all expansive and all inclusive. Why, yes, it's totally normal probably that you may relate to one of the characteristics much more. And because also change is really the only constant we have. So there's one gate or one gene key, the 35, that is all about that. It says that the only constant is change. And I also think how we can experience our human design can change. And this is now where I want to bring in the conversation of cosmic or true sidereal human design. So as I have been on my own journey and experiment with human design, I spent about 4 years with my tropical human design chart, where again I'm a tool for manifesting generator. And it was such a blessing. It was such an amazing journey where I finally gave myself the permission to do my life and my business in my own unique way and not just follow the crowd. And at some point, I also realized that I wasn't so attached to things anymore. And I was like, well, yeah, I got my chart, and maybe at some point I don't need it anymore. And then very interestingly, my body, or my sacral response, if you want to call it this way, drew me to the world of true sidereal astrology, and that just resonated so deeply in my body. And then I learned about cosmic human design, true sidereal human design. And right now I'm not going to go into much depth into what this all is and how this is different, because I have done several other podcast episodes and YouTube videos about that. But in just a very abbreviated version, true sidereal human design is based on true sidereal astrology. It's also called cosmic human design. And it is based on this astrology that is using the actual constellations in the sky. And I was a little bit shocked that tropical wasn't using that, because I just assumed it would. So if you look in the sky, or when you were born, it's where the sun was actually, and tropical is slightly shifted off about 32 degrees, which is not what you actually see visible in the sky. It's like already 32-degree ahead in the sky. So for me, in my body, for me, Annalena, again, this is my unique experience. I'm not saying this has to be yours. It just felt more true. I was like, yeah, I want to have what's straight up in the sky when I look there, and this feels right to me. Because when I follow that astrology, it impacts human design, and it actually changes the gates that are defined in your chart. And so it can change the type, it can change the profile, it can change your authority. And so in the true sidereal or cosmic human design version, I was now, or it said that now I am a 5-1 generator with sacral authority, and very different centers defined. And again, I did another episode about this where I go into more detail about it if you are curious to check that out. And I found it fascinating, because I was like, wow, this really resonates even more, And some of the things that I had in my tropical chart, for example, the 2-4 profile, that also helped me so much, I started to realize all of a sudden, because now I was having the permission slip to be a 5-1 profile. I felt a little bit more empowered, and I was like, wow, I think I was holding myself back a little bit with the 2-4, because I felt like I always have just to wait for things to come to me. But I can also take initiative and reach out to people, even though I don't know them, So step a little bit more into my leadership. That was kind of the permission that the 5-1 profile gave me. And it made me really pause for a moment and like, oh, wow, hold on. Did I actually limit myself because of my tropical human design chart? And I had to get really honest and real with myself, that I was like, I think to some extent, there were some things unconsciously going on where I told myself the story and I wasn't really aware of it, that maybe I can keep playing small, or I can have the excuse not to do certain things because of something in my human design, I was like, oh, this is really interesting. Because I think all of us humans, we like safety, we like comfort, we like things to keep them the way they are. And if we can have anything that can help us justify to stay where we're at, I mean, that's kind of a nice excuse, at least in my world. And so the true sidereal version of my human design chart invited me to go a little bit bigger, to have a little bit more courage and do some of the things that I probably would not have done. Also in terms of how I speak my truth, how I have more courage to, also run the risk, so to say, to trigger people, because the old version of me would have held back with that a little bit. Also a little bit of a recovering people pleaser, like many of us. And there were certain gates in my chart now, gate 39, gate 51, and very like dominant positions in my chart, actually my incarnation cross now, where I was like, oh, okay, it's okay for me to really speak my truth and not hold back. Because the old version of me with my 2-4 manifesting generator may not have stepped into that. So again, it's very interesting. And where I find myself right now is that I'm stepping up more in my life, trusting myself at the next level and all these things. And somehow there's a connection with this true sidereal or cosmic human design chart. So I find at this point where I'm at right now, that I have a deeper resonance with this true Sidereal human design chart. And you know what? This may change. And what I want to share with you is that, because going back to the question that I started with, okay, what if I don't resonate with my cosmic or true Sidereal human design chart? I mean, my answer is like, that's totally okay. You don't have to resonate with it at all. The beauty of it is that you get to discern, you get to choose what feels right to you. And we all have different phases in life. There's something with evolution, you know, how we feel about ourselves, how our life evolves and everything. And there are some things that serve us for a certain period of time, and then it's something else, you know. And don't compare yourself with others, because there may be people, I'm just going to give you some examples, that are totally new to human design, and they're right away jump into true sidereal human design because they have such a deep resonance with it. That's what makes sense to them. That's all they're going to do. They're not even going to look at the tropical human design. That's one scenario. There may be people that have been into the tropical human design for 10 plus years. And now all of a sudden they find cosmic or true sidereal human design, which probably is going to be big shock first. But somehow they have this like itch in some way where they're like, ooh, there's something there. You know, and then they start to look into that, and they're going to go deeper into that true sidereal human design. And some may be like, okay, I'm done with the tropical version of my chart. It has served me. And now I really want to dedicate myself fully with the true sidereal. Or you may be, you know what, I'm going to play with both of my charts. I get to look at both of the charts, and I'm going to extract some of these common themes here. And whichever is resonating more with me, or whatever benefits me here from both charts, that's what I'm going to use, right? And maybe you're going to combine astrology, and you're going to combine some other personality tests. Maybe you also, most likely, many people are also going to go into the gene keys. And at the end of the day, there's no right or wrong, right? I think what is really, really important, we have to understand that human design is not this, oh, is this one answer and this is it and you cannot do anything about it. It's not here to box you in. It's not here to tell you what you have to do. It's, again, it's an experiment. And I think that's something that we have drifted off a little bit over the years, that, or we have forgotten that this is actually all it is an experiment, you know? And I think that's just a really, really important point with that. So wherever you're at on your journey, I want you to enjoy it. I want you to have an open, curious mind and really see what's in it for you, because I think every human design chart that comes your way, and by the way, there's also regular sidereal human design charts. So if you have genetic matrix, you can, the pro version, you can play a lot with it, and you're gonna see a lot of different versions of your chart, also for the your solar return, for all these other like Saturn return or Chiron return. You can pull different kind of charts, you know. And I would always say, like, from everything there, you take what serves you the most, you know, and always keep in mind you're a human being, you change, you evolve, and what resonates with you can shift over time. So there is no right or wrong. There is no peer pressure. We also don't want to get into this like, oh, now we're the tropical against the true sidereal or anything like that. I don't like this kind of stuff. It's more about having compassion for each other and honoring each other for whatever it is. If that's human design or something completely different, maybe it's a book you picked up in the library that gives you permission to trust yourself, right? That we just embrace that and we appreciate this about each other. And, you know, for some reason in my life, and those of you that are listening, I think it's the same, human design has probably played a big role in your life, and it has been life-changing. And as you probably also know, there are other people out there in this world, they could care less about human design. It's just another thing that maybe confuses them. And there may be people out there that just think this is only limiting or boxing people into something. And yeah, if we see it from this perspective, it totally can. But I think when we can really see the whole beauty of human design and the specifics of each individual chart, there is just so much wisdom. And I think any human design chart that comes into your life comes into your life for a reason. It's for me almost like, ooh, there's a message there. This one gate right now is just really important for me, you know? And it's the same for me also with the gene keys, that while all the 64 gene keys apply to all of us, I think that there's certain gene keys that speak to me more at some point than others, and they help me access the other wisdom of the other gene keys as well over time. And this is why for me was also, I spent many years with my tropical gene keys profile. And now that I'm more into true sidereal astrology, this also then changes your gene keys profile as well. And I find so much joy now looking at these other gene keys there as well. But with the background that I have from my tropical chart. So in a way, my tropical chart was a very, very important part of my unique Annalena process. And I invite you to discover what your process is. And I know it may not be easy, you know, when you see other people talk about like, oh my God, this is the thing now. This is what feels right. Like, this is for one person. It doesn't have to be like that for you. So give yourself permission to be on your unique path, whatever tools, whatever modalities serve you, to trust yourself more, to have the courage to be yourself, to speak your truth unapologetically, to go against the grain, right? I think that's really the biggest gift we can give to the world, that we are a little bit of a rebel, right? Where we are being who we are, where we stand out because we are so unique. There's nobody else like you out there. I mean, that's really all that human design is there for me, in kind of a nutshell with that. So I hope this helped you, give you a little bit of a permission slip to, you know, play with this, have fun, experiment, try it on, see how it feels. And anything that doesn't feel right, you don't have to pursue it in any way or form. So this is what I wanted to share with you guys today. It was really on my heart because I know I have been talking quite a lot about true sidereal astrology and human design lately, and I will continue to do so because for me it just feels so true, you know. And I have also so many messages now from people almost on a daily basis. They tell me like, hey, Annalena, I just wanted to let you know, I actually have been playing with my true sidereal, but I didn't have a place where I could talk about it. And I'm so grateful that you finally actually talk more openly about it. And I have also numerous people that tell me that their tropical chart felt good, but there were some things that were trying to fit themselves into something. And now all of a sudden with the cosmic or true sidereal human design chart, they feel a next level of resonance with that. So that's a beautiful thing for me, that this is what it does for some people. And like I said, it doesn't have to be like this for everyone, you know. You may want to stick with tropical human design forever if that works for you, and that is beautiful, because all I care about is that you're happy, that you live the most fulfilled life, and you get to be of service in the way that it is meant for you, you know, according to your unique calling in this world. And you will know what this inner calling is. So let human design and any of these tools help you connect to your inner calling so you can more boldly step into that. If you're interested to book a reading with me, I do now true sidereal human design readings as well. I can also look at both of your charts, the tropical and the true sidereal. I'm going to make sure I will drop the link to that in the comments. And if you have any other topics that you would like for me to talk on this podcast, send me a message on Instagram or at my email at bloom@annalenafuchs.com, because I'm always very happy to respond. And thank you as always for tuning in, to being such loyal listeners. And I'm very excited to be with you all on the next episode.